We have two API endpoints, as we saw it in the official documentation, the completion and the chat completion endpoint. In the code examples in the docs, which we didn't explore in detail on purpose, for the completion endpoint, the code or parts of the code looked something like this. For the chat completion endpoint, the code looked like that. Now, there are some important differences between these two examples. I want to get started with two important differences. The first one is that for the completion endpoint, we have openai.completion.create. For chat completion, we have openai.chatCompletion.create. This allows us to access different endpoints. We could refer to these endpoints to different computers that store different ChatGPT models. Now afterwards, we have the create function, which allows us to manage the connection between our application and the ChatGPT API. And for the completion API, we have a model named TextDaVinci 003, which is just an example. We can use multiple models with this endpoint. For the chat completion, we have GPT 3.5 Turbo. We can also use other models in here, but it is important to understand that only with the chat completion endpoint we can use the 3.5 or GPT-4 models. As this is our goal in this course and also our recommendation, we will use the chat completion endpoint in this course. You can also use the completion endpoint, but then you cannot use these models. And this completion endpoint also has other simplifications, so to say, whereas the chat completion endpoint is a bit more advanced. We'll dive into the differences throughout this module. For the moment, it's just important to know that we use this chat completion endpoint with the 3.5 or GPT-4 model.